What's up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki coming at you with another Church MHA stream for My Hero 390. Chapter 390. Another significant chapter in the Todoroki family, almost assuredly. How y'all doing today? All right, let me make sure I got this posted in the Discord. We got this little baby in my jacket. Y'all know we got the baby on deck. Always got the baby. Little baby. Look at it, being precious. All right, little baby. So, you want to read today's chapter? You need a pacify? What my pretty girl need? All right, we got to make sure we post this into the scripture. And then we're going to go about our day, making sure that everything is okay. Who's a little baby? That's you. That's you. All right. Oh. Perfect. Coyote got it handled. Thank you, Coyote. You've done well. Yeah, who's that pretty girl? So when we left off, Five Weenies was getting on the scene. Hey, Tiger Blaster. Hey, I can't believe you done this sign on 4GR. What's up? And the True Star. The regulars coming through. I appreciate y'all every single time you do. MK the baby. MK the baby. And the baby. How you doing, little baby? We got Gene Bean on deck, so it's a good day. Look at this baby. Being adorable. Being adorable. Let me focus on the chapter. Yeah. Look at you. All right, let me focus on the chapter. See, I got to give y'all some non-Endeavor vibes in the familial area to offset the chapter that is inevitably going to have ridiculous Endeavor vibes. Because Endeavor will be in this chapter, unless we do a perspective swap, but very unlikely, as we discussed. There's the whole power of the Todoroki 90, so we'll see how that goes. And then let's see who's here. We got Tanisha Greer. All right, you know what? I've been liking just starting the chapter and letting people come in, so I'm just going to start it. That way, if somebody wants to pop in, they don't have to worry about not asking questions or anything like that. So we're just going to get right into it. Yeah, little baby, we're getting right into the chapter. Right into the chapter, little baby. All right, here we go. Chapter 390. And from what I understand, Horikoshi is taking another break after this chapter. So we're going to have another reread stream next week. So for those of you who missed the first one, that was last Sunday. We read the first volume. It ended up being a 4-hour stream. We had a lot of talking. So let's go. All right, let's see. Ida engines is where we start with this chapter. His engines are basically melting apart, falling apart. Which, hey, the thing that's like wild about that is that means that Ida can feel his engines crumbling, breaking. See this blood, he's gonna have to pull those out. I don't know if he's able to run without the exhaust tubes, but here we go. So Ida says, "This is as far as I can escort you," which I think it's funny that Ida and the robot have similar fates and that they go in and have to give it up so that the Todoroki family member can go through a little further with their ice. And this chapter is titled Shoto Todoroki Rising, which also makes me wonder if Shoto's going to give us a hero name this chapter, or if he's just going to stick to being Shoto. But we see him hit that flash fire fist phosphor. And that Sonic Blue. I can't believe it. Transonic speed as fast as a fighter jet. And this is beautiful. He's using regenerating ice constructs to reduce drag and creating a layer of heated air to reduce the friction. Now, if anyone can do a darn thing about the impending crisis at Gunga, it's got to be the dynamic duo of engine and half cold, half hot. You make one hell of a teacher, All Might. You're our only hope. You got this. See, I feel like it's a little messed up to give most of the credit to All Might's teachings, but Sukuchi doesn't know Aizawa like that, so we're gonna let this slide. Yeah, we're gonna let it slide, right? We're gonna let it slide. Todoroki, thanks to you, I'm becoming who I want to be. So get over there and make it happen for you too. Dear Mom. Oh, snap. Are we finally getting the letter he wrote to her after the sports festival? Dear Mom, I want to tell you something. In hopes of keeping up with my classmates, I'm making an effort to speak up and chat with them daily. All that talking has led to some conflict, but sometimes butting heads with others has led to a better understanding of how they think and feel. My friends care about more than just themselves. They get mad and shed tears for the sake of others. That's how I want to be. It's not easy, but I'm trying. Let me see, he's just running forward. It's like everything is flipping around upside down. My origin as Toya and Dabi. If it was so simple a thing, if only we'd butted heads sooner like this. There are still arguments I want to have and things I still want to say. And Shoto, once again, pulling back to that childhood, Toya talking about it, of course, but remembering your origin being one of the central aspects of My Hero. And then we get the great glacial Ager, and we can see that there's still a bit of an explosion here because things are getting blown away. Helicopters being pushed back. The kids are celebrating. And all right, so we see that some of them have managed to pull away. So luckily, Toya is not going to explode, or at the very least, this explosion has been heavily reduced, I should say. There's still some detonation, just not nearly as much heat. Our whole family is here. Well, not great, but maybe it's for the best. Because my great glacial Aegis alone might have not been enough to stop this. Ever since round one back there, Toya's fire just kept growing. And for was like Shoto, he reached uncharted territories where I can't tread. Maybe I was never actually the masterpiece creation. You all die already, Dad. You scum. Just die. You all, and me too, drop dead. He is freezing from the inside. Toya, my big brother. Well, what now? All that awaits us is pure hell. Toya, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I never made it to Sokoto Peak. Hate you all. Hate you, Dad. The whole family too. Go on. Really let me have it. Keep it coming. Ray, I'm sorry for pushing you to the breaking point. Fuyumi, I'm sorry for leaving you to pick up the pieces. Natsuo, I'm sorry for neglecting you like I did. And Shoto, I'm sorry. And we see Toga is looking over there. Let's smile, Himiko Toga. Smiling is why we live our lives. So, Toya, have you managed to smile? And then we see Ochako, so we're shifting focus to the Ochako. Ooh, somebody just passed gas. You little baby. Boop, 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 boop. fucking little baby. Yeah, that's you. You're so cute. All right. So another short one, which is to be expected considering the fact that we already got that announcement of another hiatus. Would have liked it to be longer, of course, but now it kind of just feels like 390 and 389 might have been capable of being combined into one, or could have been a bit longer, but we'll see. Definitely can tell that some of these are going to be corrected in the volume. Like the paneling of this is going to change in the volume, because some of these moments felt like they could have been or would have been bigger spreads, and just weren't because of timelines and health. Let's see. Thomas said, "Yo," and then just came to tuned in to adorableness. Scheduled break this time, so that's a relief. Solo me saying, "What's up, Daddy Key?" And yes, Coyote. Oh God, why are we giving credit to All Might? Said this the first time I saw that All Might ain't do shit for them. Tell you, even as a crispy, as far by fry better than Todoroki. Hey, look, I can't believe you done this coming through with the waiting for the 391, which I agree. That boy Dobby is going out with hate, and I like it. Oh yeah, no, Dobby is committed to hating, and I respect it. Like, because the thing is that everything Dobby was mad about, in some ways, and we had talked about this previously, you know, you guys won't pay attention until, do you need this? You need this? I think you need this. Yeah, you need that. Some of the things that Dobby was upset about, like lack of attention, focus. These are all things that if Endeavor were a better parent, if the family had been there, they could have come through way sooner. I know it's not all on everybody, but at the end of the day, everybody could have done it just a little bit better. And that's all it really boils down to, is understanding that the situation is the direct result of his anger at the whole family. And even with, him coming through and making sure to stop the explosion, it doesn't look like, Dobby's really going to be doing much of anything after this. This kind of looks like a case of saving the citizens, stopping him from exploding. So, but ultimately, doesn't seem like he's truly been saved, at least not in the sense of his heart wasn't. And I mean, he's missing his right arm now. I wonder how, like, I could see Endeavor living now, maybe. His face is kind of messed up, and everybody's going to have ridiculous freezer burns on their face going forward. Hey, listen, I routinely ask my baby if she wants to consume peak fiction. So, yes, I want that in her vocabulary. I want her going to school on the first day being like, "Oh, I really like this because it's peak fiction." And the teacher being like, "What?" Yes, that's the goal. Have her being like that. Man, they said he's in the process of freezing from the inside. So, which now that I think about it, I don't think I've heard anybody say anything, but I've admitted at least two people in. So I'm a little worried that I'm just not hearing anything. Hey, Thomas.
And Coyote too.
Yeah, I was checking to see if you
Yeah,
got it.
yeah, and I'm always forgotten and talking. I'll remember this.
Okay, I was just making sure
Deserved.
I didn't have audio issues there.
You fucking Brit. It ain't deserved.
Yeah,
Oh,
it ain't deserved. Huh? Deleted my message after saying we should ban
Fix your
those
big,
words.
fix your pick of teeth before you talk to me about it.
oh Lord.
How's everyone?
I'm doing all right. What about you?
I'm okay. I have mixed feelings about the chapter.
Besides length, how are you feeling about it?
I feel like because obviously Dobby wasn't going to fight because he was a ticking time bomb. Shoto even arrived at the last minute to save everyone. If he wasn't there, if he didn't have Ida, they'd all would have died.
Oh yeah,
But I kind of feel like, and obviously you said besides the length, but I feel like the length would have added so much more. Like, I feel like the talk between Shoto to everyone, Dobby and Endeavor's chat, Dobby like expressing how he still feels, how he still wants to unalive. I feel like it should have been more lengthened out. And I don't blame Hori. Like Hori has a lot on his plate. He had the volume cover, he had everything else. So I can kind of see his health also playing a factor in that as well. But I don't know. I kind of feel like we should have gone more. But obviously, we're still going to go. I still believe, obviously, after the war is over, we're going to have that final resolution because the battle has been won, not the war.
correct. And I think that throughout stuff like for Ida, one of the things that the more I think about, the more I realize people are getting finales that are in line with their characters, right? So, um, Shoto is someone who's been dealing with familial trauma, the issues that like his distance with his family, not being able to open up to people, having all these effectively just all repercussions of the abuse that he suffered at the hands of Endeavor. Oh, he's getting sleepy. And I'm for that. I think that having his arc center on that, and also I'll say that people are getting endings that are in line with what their abilities and goals actually are. So one of the things that with Ida, for example, during Camino, part of why he was like, no, I'm going to go with you is because he was like, when I was acting out, when I was doing the wrong thing, you were there for me, Deku. So I'm not going to just let you go now. But in this case, Shoto was been like one of his closest friends. So it's also like a marker of his progression in his relationship with Shoto, obviously, but also the fact that I feel like Camino was more about him paying back Deku for being there for him. Whereas, and I always wondered, if Ida was going to be hurt running away from the blast and just like throw Shoto, but instead what we got was just like joint training, except better. He like managed to save, like he sacrificed his legs, his engines, let those get destroyed in exchange for making sure Shoto could get there and save as many people as possible. So that's kind of like his conclusion in the war arc, right? Because if his engines are busted up, he's not going anywhere after this battle, more than likely, unless there's some kind of teleporting going on. And even then, we'll see what happens, because it could also just be that the engines, let him have like refined movement. So what we have with Uraraka is it looks to be one of the things that Uraraka, we've had this emphasis on her hand-to-hand combat getting improved, of course, throughout the entire series. Her adapting and becoming more like Deku as far as, applying the little jets that she kind of has with the Air Force shoes, the little satellite cords that she uses so that she can grab things that are floating. And of course, this is set up with her going against Toga, who, has almost no restraint on her feelings, and Ochako, who is heavily restrained her feelings throughout the series. So their conflict not only is it, yes, going to center on ultimately like how she feels about Deku, how they feel, but mostly about how they feel about handling their emotions and what is a proper way to express yourself. How do you navigate your way through society? And also seeing the results of all the effort Ochako has put in to overcome the weaknesses that she learned that she had against Bakugo all the way back in Sports Festival. Suyu is the only one that there's like this weird, she's like there, but there's not a whole lot of like real story to what Sue does. She's just kind of been there. To
Yeah,
help
she's
people
just
out.
like her support.
Yeah, she's the
Or-
supporting
okay.
character in the story, in this
So
arc.
with Deku, obviously, and then with Bakugo, as much as people don't like it, I think it's hilarious because the death and resurrection of Bakugo is kind of like one big homage to the ego death he had to suffer. And if you think about it, what happened right before he died, he thought, can I catch up to you, Deku? He wasn't thinking like, oh, I need to surpass it. He was just thinking, can I be like you? Can I be a hero that fights and wins despite how I'm injured like you?
Mhm.
And then we see the destruction of his heart and Ed Shot going out of his way to replace it, a hero becoming his heart, effectively, you know, literally being the metaphor that he has the heart of a hero now. So, you know, I'm kind of like really digging the thematic Billy Club that Horikochi's kind of been beating people with to
Mhm.
wrap this story up. And obviously, you know, some people don't like that heart of the hero thing, even though I also don't think, I think most people just don't like the heart thing in general. I don't think many people have a problem with it. I don't think I've heard anybody really discuss how there's, you know, going into that heart of a hero thing, but still.
They would have to
Uh,
understand it first, and that's not going to happen with this fandom.
I think if we're gonna go with that route, I think people would be more accepting with it. Like you mentioned, Ida was he bringing Todoroki to safety and saving all the people. I think what a lot of the fandom wants, and it is a little too much to ask for most of these people, is they just want to see for Ida, they wanted to see him fight one person, whether that be fodder or like, because like if you look at what it did, he didn't really do anything in the fight with Dobby. He was just standing there for most of it, and then right
No.
now he's just pushing Shoto to Dobby right now. So he didn't really do much to them, and they were looking forward to seeing like him fight. When people have been saying he's been doing nothing the entire series, so to them that's like, well, I didn't get what I wanted with my character, is to see him do some cool stuff. When this is cool and fits with his character narratively.
I agree. Like, it's a battle shonen. A lot of people want to see battles, but I feel like how Hori like had this final hurrah to Ida's character, I feel like it fits. Like Ida has always been, especially what he told Deku, I'm the guy who brings the lost child by the hand and guides them to safety.
Yeah,
He
Ida's whole
guided
goal is
Shoto
to
by the
let
hand.
other people's dreams come true.
Yes.
That's his whole goal.
And I think that's one of those things that, and you guys have heard me say it once, so but I'm going to say it again. Horikoshi keeps his characters in character, whether the overall enjoyment of the story is going to be like is going to take a hit or not. And in this case, dedicating like Ida isn't there to just go kick niggas in the head, even if we would like to see him just kicking people in the head at high speeds. Like, would that be raw? Like, would it be raw to see Ida just like spin through and just roundhouse kick like 80 villains and then just like get that cool panel where he's like sliding? Yeah. But that's not the narrative focus of his journey. And just like Bakugo, his journey is centered on his own falling in line with what it actually means to be a hero, not being selfish, not always looking for the glory and all that other stuff, which you can look at him chasing Stain down to honor the name of Ingenium as like this honor, pride centered thing that he needed to overcome. So he's like a lesser, he has a journey similar to Bakugo's in that it's a trajectory that's about overcoming your pride and ego, but it isn't through the same lens like Bakugo's hostility, superiority complex, and just like mistreating people. You could argue that his I'm a hero, you're a villain, so I got to beat you down rant is a little egotistical, but still.
Yeah. I think a lot of the majority of problems for this arc comes down to just knowing it is the final war arc. And a lot of
Yeah.
people are comparing like other wars and other series to what My Hero should do, which in itself is going to be skewing a lot of perception of how Horikoshi really wants to intend to do this.
Oh yeah, because most people when they think Final War, and generally, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing at all. I think you're allowed to, like, make sure your characters get fights and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's-
100%.
like it's whatever. It's an action series. It's totally fine. I think that so it's like it's not a criticism that I'm like mad at. It's something that I'm like, yeah, you're allowed to feel that way.
Yeah,
Do I think it's like on a technical level bad? No. Can I see emotionally being like, oh man, I want to see that guy beat somebody's butt one last time? Totally valid.
yeah,
Because like it also a lot of series what they do is sometimes, or I've read some series where what they do is like they do have a big war, but then the final battle itself might not actually be a war. For example, Air Gear is one of my favorite series. And while there's this whole battle royale tournament and stuff, like technically the final arc is a tournament arc, depending on how you want to look at it. But the final battle itself doesn't end up being a like a whole scale war. It ends up being a match that's had after another fight or battle or mini war, I guess you could say, because it's a tournament and there's like team matches and stuff like that
Yeah.
technically. But they always break off into a bunch of one towards the end. Then you get a 2v2 battle between the main character and the the girl who's basically supposed to be his girlfriend by the end of the series, and her big sister and his main antagonist. So you kind of get that going, and then that whole thing focuses in on the relationship between the two guys by the end of it and their dynamic.
Mhm.
So there's multiple ways to kind of handle these final battles, and I think depending on which series you've read, because typically the Shonen Jump formula is to just have a bunch of really big battles towards the end, and you either like it or you don't. So, I mean, it's fine. I'm glad that we got. I think looking back on it in like 5-10 years, or as people get take more of a literary angle to a lot of stuff, they'll probably be like, I really do like the fact that every character's ending was focused on who they are as a person and less on whether or not they could just beat somebody up. Because a lot of people have tried to say that My Hero is just a series about who punches harder, or it reduces its fights to who punches harder, which, I don't really agree with. But if people feel that way, stuff like story beats like this one kind of starkly are in contrast with that. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if that's an idea or a feeling people will continue having going forward or not. Mr. Andrew Super Chat coming through. Would you rather Hori pause action in the middle of fights to resolve some of the conflicts verbally, or have him do one big end volume where people sit and talk? All right. Let's see. How do you guys feel about that before I give my answer?
I don't think sit and talk is how I would describe what I want Hori to do. Like, I don't expect Hori to go all CW, talk in the hallway type approach. But I do want to see, like, for example, Uraraka and Toga's battle not be entirely fight, but just them trying to just voice their opinions and trying to find a middle ground. Like, I don't want to see Uraraka pull out like the jutsu from Naruto, like taijutsu. I want to see an emotional talk.
yeah. If we're talking like how we want them to talk mid battle, I'd say how I prefer Toga and Uraraka to talk would be like, let's use this as an example. Toga's talking and then Uraraka like redirects her blow and throws her and then responds that way. Like, I think they should respond to each other after each blow type thing.
Kind of like what they
Personally.
did during PLW when they were at the house. Like they were.
Yeah, kind of like that. I think that's the best way to deal with talking in fights instead of like Tom said, CW talking in an alleyway.
And like that makes more sense with those two characters as well, because their confrontations has always been more verbal than physical.
They're also the two characters in this, like, you have the one for all versus the all for one like plotline. You have the Todoroki family plotline, who, let's be honest, the main hitters from those groups are people who control like city level attacks. Uraraka and Toka are just people compared.
Yeah,
They're
they're
not
just
going to be-
bums compared to everyone.
Yeah, they're not going to be like throwing like buildings at each other. No, they're just going to have a ground level fight. And I think that's great in comparison to, like, let's just say Deku and Shigaraki punching each other and stopping the talk. Punch, stop, punch, stop.
Yeah, that is kind of another thing that I'll say is good about this, because
Oops.
did they have a bit of a conversation here? Yes. Can there be more conversation after this moment? Actually, yes.
Yeah.
Where is the conversation being placed, though? Directly after the conflict. And we're not getting, and we saw like Dabi having his mental breakdown during the conflict. And they had a bit of a conversation at the start, and that was like the opening act. And then it was mostly Dabi like yelling at Shoto as he smacked the shit out of him.
Yeah.
So like it wasn't like the let me pause and stand around, which it'll be interesting to see how the anime executes it, because Dabi wasn't playing. He was moving around like a DBZ character with his flaming aura. He was
Bro,
trying to
like, teleported right behind Shoto. Like, it was 100% a Dragon Ball Z fight.
which, out of curiosity, how do you guys feel about Shoto's statement? Like, maybe I wasn't the masterpiece creation after all. Because I kind of like I think we all kind of agree that at the very least a lot of Dabi's potential wasn't realized because of how Endeavor taught.
Yeah. I've said before multiple times that if Dabi had proper training, he would literally be at least number 2 or number 1 if All Might retired. To me, at least.
Yeah, like it's one of the biggest what ifs in the series, because like Endeavor only taught him how to turn up the heat. And like maybe if he tried to see if he could control the temperature of his flames, they might have uncovered the ice aspect a whole lot sooner, and then found a way to work that.
Yep. Also,
Even then, if we don't talk about the ice, like Dabi is an untrained fire user as itself right now, and he's already doing so much crazy shit with the lava coming out of the floor, just in general, Prominence burn.
oh yeah,
What
that
I
was
love-
nuts. That
What I
He did
attack
that.
was
love-
nuts.
He did that just by watching too, because again, like
Yeah.
no formal training. So I get like you could say he's sort of like a savant with his quirk, just be able to see like he managed to mimic the phosphor after just watching it that one
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and he was excited
Sometimes-
about training for us, so he would have been on top of the game every day.
Something I love about Shoto's speech there, where he was talking about how maybe I'm not the masterpiece creation, is that he doesn't give himself all the credit. It's everyone. Like he saw everyone was there. He may not agree with them
Having
being
everyone
there
be
because they could die, but he's appreciative of them, because without them, Great Glacial Aegis wouldn't have worked.
Yep, he straight up says it like, I don't know if I would have had enough here. Which, hey, props to him for understanding his limits. And it's also a good little side bits thrown to the story just to acknowledge, like, arguably Shoto is not at full power yet. So whether or not he is that guy or not is going to be, still yet to be revealed. Also, I like the fact that Horikoshi remembered, this is a randomly small, real small detail, but he remembered to have the suit go off because it's supposed to regulate his temperature. So when you look at it in the background, you can see it's kind of like a little steam or whatever.
Oh yeah.
What I'm trying to see is that all that awaits us. Let's see. Yeah, that is not for sure.
Oh, you mean the one who says it's gonna be hellish, or all
well-
that awaits us is pure hell? Right next to when Dabi's like, die already.
Yep.
I was
Because-
confused because he looks so much like NG.
Yeah, when he's like, well, what now? And it's like,
Yeah.
see. And the thing is that it still technically doesn't have to be Knoxville saying that, but it could be. That's one where I almost wish there was like the little carrot pointing either towards that previous panel or something like that, just to make it a little easier.
Okay. What like makes you know it's not so as well as the hair?
Yeah. Or
Like the
at least for
white.
the all, pure hell line.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to figure out is if Toya has eyes or not.
Yeah, that little like circle on. I'm sorry, like I got taken aback because I'm like, wait, is that a pupil? But no,
I
I
think
don't. I
he's
don't think it
lost
is.
one eye, and then the other one he still has. Because on
Maybe.
the other one, there's cracks, and then the other one you can clearly see a pupil.
Yeah.
Which just
I-
means that he was right-handed
Mhm.
and his right side took more damage than his left.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Since that's-
considering he lost his right arm, you're absolutely
Yeah.
correct.
Which is interesting because NG is left-handed. So almost all, like a lot of the flash fire attacks you see originally are with the left.
Yeah.
So now I need to double check. Is that did he lose the left or the right arm?
I mean, NG,
Yeah.
he lost his right.
So yeah, they both lost their right arm.
Yeah.
Rip.
They're matching.
It doesn't look like NG's lost his eyes or anything like that, but they're gonna have a combination of freezer and fire burns. So the whole Todoroki family is just messed up. But it does look like NG still has his eyes at least.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a family package on skin grafts.
Man. But I hit up the what's they called? The Haruma clan. Little sleepy baby. Let's see. I mean, it's cool that the kids got to witness this. We got, confirmation that the helicopters were able to record this, which means inevitably this is going to be televised. Like I've said, live stream, documentary. Everybody's watching this. They're going to be rewatching it in years. Really gives multiple of these kids a shot. What I'm kind of curious about is how
Yeah, that's tragic.
Toga and Ochakwa's fight is going to be handled now, because obviously you have the camera ridiculously close to their sight. You have all the doppelgangers. So the question becomes like, how is this going to be executed? Are we going to get that emphasis on Ochakwa's battle, that being watched? Because that one seems a lot more vulnerable, seems more to be about, how people feel. Not necessarily more so in this one, but it's the conflict is a lot more centered on the emotionality, etc. So I'm kind of curious what they're gonna be like, showcasing if they're gonna record that one and get that one live streamed.
I feel like Dabi's heat took out a lot of the twice clones. So I don't know, maybe
I'm kind of worried for Uraraka because she's like, there's a whole bunch of twice clones just pile
Amen.
diving her. So like
Maybe with Tom's, maybe because she has all the twice clones, maybe she has a thing where she touches you. She has like Shigaraki, where it just spreads.
maybe because that's like
that's the
how
only
else
way I
is she
can
gonna
see
get
it
out?
hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless she like rapidly like touches everyone, and she like they all start to float, which gives her the opportunity to like squeeze out. That's the only way I can see it. So I do think you may be onto something. Because like I feel like Uraraka's quirk has been just a talking point for like years.
Yeah.
But compared to like One for All, half hot, half cold, or half cold, half hot, explosion, dark shadow, like she has the one quirk that hasn't really improved as much as it should be.
She's had to rely more on actual combat prowess
Yeah.
than her quirk most of the time.
And even then, I didn't really see it as impressive as most people did. So this
Yeah,
is the
gun
this
hand
is
martial
the
arts
chance.
on a knocked out man.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
the chance
TCT
for
was
her
gonna
to
fight
show what
back,
she
man.
can do.
Yeah, in general, it's either she gets like a not awakening, but she figures out she can use her quirk on multiple things and it spreads.
Mhm.
Or I don't know, maybe Sue or another hero comes in and helps her or something. Because that's the only way to get rid of all twices all around her. Really.
No, she's bringing back the Comet home run with all the trees
Yeah.
and twice clones.
Yeah.
Oh my god, she did that move once, and it's like her signature in like every single video game that they've released so far.
And it's the one thing she's known for.
Bro, Ultra Rumble, like one of her attacks is just spinning around, but like a what was it, like a tree or something? And it's the funniest thing because it's powerful.
I mean, getting smacked with a tree would suck.
It would suck.
All I know is, Thomas, you're gonna get folded in Ultra Rumble once that game comes out.
Hey, what do you mean? We're teaming up.
Oh, now you want to be my team.
Hey, I've been saying we should. But yeah, I'm excited to see where Uraraka and Toge goes because obviously the last thing we see Toge thinking about is Dabi.
Yep.
So I do like to see more of how she feels about it. I don't think we'll get it, but I hope we do.
Well, I think it's fascinating because part of what she's talked about is how she's like, why do I not love the league? Like, her asking that question just because she's like, I love them but I can't do their quirks. So do I not actually love them? What's going on? Like, I think that's a wild thing to have to sit there and have it. But I think part of it is also, does she love Jin differently than she loves Dabi? Or maybe this is the juncture where she finally gets to start understanding the difference in what love actually is. Because I think that she hasn't really had to sit down and think about what it means to love someone outside of just that really strong feeling. And of course, her parents, who were constantly rejecting her, making her feel bad, obviously part of them really wanted the best for her. They didn't want her to be seen as a freak or the girl who eats birds exclusively, etc. But it's that lack of proper connectivity, and like it's not like they did it in a loving way either, right? Based on all the information we got in that flashback during NBA, it just kind of seemed like they were the kind of parents that were like, oh no, you're doing the thing I don't like, slaps the shit out you, and then just goes, all right, yep. So you're not gonna do that anymore, right? You are, slaps the shit out of you again. And like that just kind of seems to be the only way they really processed any of that stuff. So hoping that she'll get to have like a true like sit down think moment and really come to terms with like what it's okay, little baby. Her feelings really mean, and who knows, like I guess the question is, before I even go into Toga like any further, do you feel like we're heading towards a satisfactory conclusion for Dabi? And if so, or if not, what do you like about it, or what do you think we should change? Or what do you wish was different?
What do you, because it all comes down to like we all have different tastes in
Yeah,
general.
of course. That's why I just want to hear some different opinions here. Or even if you guys end up having the same opinion.
Yeah. Personally, for me with Dabi, at this point, I do want him to live because I kind of feel like with these past 3 chapters, especially with the family they've been building up with Dabi living and how they want to do stuff with it. And I would be more interested to see what Hori has plans on what talks they could do with Dabi if he were to live in the final chapters. But I feel like it also, at the same time, it still could happen where he dies, and I would still be happy if it was in a hospital bed or for some reason like that.
Because like me personally, Dabi could have died here alongside Endeavor, and I would feel like I would have been missing something. I do agree with Coyote. I do want him to pass away in a hospital bed because at least then he gets a little more time with his family where they can settle the past and give him what he wants. Because like with how Dabi is currently, his mental state, I feel like that's the best choice. Also, I do think Dobby being kept alive, unless they pull some miracle, it'd be cruel to keep him in the condition he is and let him live the rest of his life. Because number one, he's missing his arm. Number two, his legs are gone. Number three, his skin needs a whole rework. Number four, his eyes are fecked. Like he needs new eyes if he's going to live. It's just a horrible existence for him currently. And if they can save the Toya inside of him, if they could save his heart and he passes on, I feel like that's the best conclusion.
At this point, I feel like death would be a mercy for him because,
Mhm.
like, you call that living?
Yeah.
That would not be living.
If death is a mercy, I want him to live. I don't want mercy on any of these characters. I want them all to suffer like All Might.
I want these characters because of course I want a bittersweet ending. I want some
Yeah,
tragedy. But at the same time, I've grew up with this series since I was 14. I want some characters to have a happy ending. If Dobby has his happy ending, if he passes away knowing that he's loved and he finally saw him, I feel like that'd be poetic.
Yeah. Because I kind of always felt it was gonna build up with Dobby not losing all his hate, but becoming more understanding and accepting to what life is now.
Mhm.
Okay, so I like a lot of what I'm hearing here because I kind of agree that even if Dobby, like, there's no happy ending for Toya outside of being loved
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
getting to feel the love of his family before he dies. And even then, I feel like the only thing that'll add a bit of like catharsis to it and will make it like really sad is maybe if we get like an I'm sorry, mom.
Mhm.
Just because,
Yeah.
he's like Endeavor, like everybody else, but she's still mom in his mind.
Mhm.
And I think part of him knows he was harder on her than he should have been. But this idea that ultimately it's hard to see a world where Dobby survives and it makes sense. Yes, there's the cybernetics, but we know that he already, even before this, had enough nerve damage where it was going to be it was kind of touch and go
Mhm.
on what he could actually feel. So I feel like any prosthetics or anything like that he could utilize might not be enough for him to have a proper life, even with the advance of technology. And even if he could, he's directly admitted to murdering over 30 people. And since he rode on the back of Makia, just throwing off blue flames everywhere, he's definitely killed more than 30 people.
Mhm.
So do I want Dobby sitting in prison? No. Do I want Dobby to
Walk
not go
free?
to no?
Yeah, I don't want that to
Uh,
happen here.
so it's kind of one of those, there's no situation beyond death where Dobby's character conclusion makes sense or
Mhm.
feels fitting.
Yeah. That's why I said I would really be interested to see how Hori does it with him living, because I right now don't see any good ending with him living.
Mhm.
Cameron Bailey, no.
What did Cameron? What did Cameron say? Come on, like he kind of voice it. Eri will save Dog. Ah, yeah, Eri the Dragon Ball. You do love to see her being the Dragon Ball.
The most I could ever see Ari doing, and that would then this would require Horikoshi to be like, fuck how I've written this story up until now.
Mhm.
And not in the way that people like to try to say he did it, but like he would have to actually be trying to do that.
If Hori wanted Eri to save everyone, he would pull like Desiree can put all her life energy into like Eri's quirk, that super boosted to the point where she could save everyone in Japan.
Yeah, which I've always said that the only way I want Ari doing something like super critical at this juncture is if we're gonna have a future Ari coming back in the past.
I I mean, the like Ares saving everyone was a concept that has been not saving everyone, but have been using our quirk to be like a Dragon Ball has been a concept used before. And it was in Heroes Rising with Katsuma, where Katsuma used his quirk on Bakugo and Deku to heal them and heal themselves. That is the closest we'll ever get to what people want with Eri.
Yeah. And I think most people I think a lot of the people who are like, Aries just gonna ruin stuff, I think ultimately they just don't like the character. They don't like the idea of a character having those kinds of powers, which, and this will sound weird, I think a character like Eri not existing would be a borderline plot hole.
With how
Yeah.
diverse quirks are and how
Yeah,
powerful they have
like
gone
it-
over
it-
the years. Yeah, of course, it would have been a plot hole. We would have needed to see this.
just like if there would have been not a single person with Recovery Girl's quirk, it would have felt like bullshit.
It's like, Hori, are you trying to avoid like
Yeah. It's like, why are there no healing quirks in My Hero?
yeah.
Which even then,
So-
Ares isn't really healing,
Actually-
it's just rewind. It's just she
I need to
uses-
make sure. Let me
Is it
look
for
at One Punch Man. Is there a healing hero in One Punch Man? Like a hero that can heal? Because I don't think there is. I know there's regeneration, but I don't think a hero has it. Because I tried looking one up. Fubuki popped up, but like that's only using her psychokinesis, I believe that's what it's called. But even then, I don't count that.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's.
Yeah, I think it's only Fubuki. So yeah, My Hero. Yeah, it makes no sense for that to be One Punch Man either.
Yeah, no. So it's one of those things where if you completely avoid healing powers, you almost need to justify it somehow. Which I'm gonna be honest, nobody like One Punch Man is enjoyable, but I think people aren't reading it to scrutinize it the same way they try to scrutinize My Hero. And that's fine. It's just more like because we're not doing that with that one, it's easier to miss. You know what I mean? Or not think about. But yeah, no, like that's a really good case. Yeah, and healing quirks are still rare, but it's like the idea of there being no healing quirks would be silly. Just like we're getting, and especially if we have quirks like Momo's where she just straight up creates stuff, it's entirely fair to be like, nah, we should also have quirks that heal, do other more important, not necessarily more important, but other things that matter ultimately.
I mean, there's one for a black that creates a literal black hole. So like something that can make you feel a little bit better. That's gotta exist if the destruction one does.
With destruction comes creation. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree, Tanisha. It feels like it had like a one step forward, two steps back.
Let's see. Because other than prosthetics that look like Terminators, it feels like medicine has progressed and simultaneously regressed. That's because most advancements in My Hero's technology, while there is advancements as far as like, prosthetics and stuff, it's not been focused on helping people live. It has been focused on helping people live medically for the most part. A lot of what we see for technological emphasis is on day-to-day gear, and weaponry ultimately, because that's what all the support course items are. They're weapon adjacent products. Like military development and war is always war pushes development. And when you have war pushes development technologically, specifically because people will put their most energy into doing that. It's kind of like how people always say thousands of years ago, somebody invented a sling And one of the things we've done over the past couple of years is find better and better ways to sling little rocks faster and faster and more deadly. Now we have fully automatic machine guns, the ultimate sling. Like you can just kind of, same with missile launchers, etc. It's just us learning how to throw things at people better and better. So we're always going to put in that extra effort to figure out how to kill somebody, or that's just what it is. So the thing that there's one piece of technology in all of My Hero that I think was super inconsistent with the story, and that's Ochaka's flip phone.
Yeah, because when you look, because you get the whole point behind it. It's like, compared to like your average phone, a flip phone is a sign of poverty. It's a sign that you're not as well off as everyone around you, which is a clever idea. But considering how advanced My Hero, like the world is, you would think there would be a cheap enough phone in the world that wasn't a flip phone.
There are currently cheap smartphones.
Yeah.
That some of them even cost less than flip phones. The trade-off with those is usually that you don't get what do you call it? You don't get
like what we like the advanced like
you don't get
parts of an Android
OS updates and stuff
like
that.
But even then, that would have still been believable. Like,
yeah,
I get the whole point. I don't think it's something to take seriously, because obviously it's a gag. Like, Uraraka's poverty is both a part of her character and something Hori likes to poke fun at. Like, for example, in like the volume extras, if that's what you call them, I don't know the name for them. Like how Uraraka managed sleep. Like if I sleep, I don't have to eat. Like it's meant to be jokes.
Yeah, it's all meant to be like funny and not necessarily be like the serious reflection of everything that she's going through, but rather just meant to be fun sometimes. Which, it's one of those things where it's like, probably like in hindsight messed it up, but
I think Tyler gave the best explanation. She likes to flip down her phone during like conversations.
We need to work when someone transforms into a machine like a helicopter or a bus or a car. You should have called it Transformer. Oh, I'm actually amazed we don't have more quirks, or like somebody doing what's like the arms fruit from One Piece or something like that.
So is that not like Tsubone from Hunter x Hunter, where she transforms into like the motorbike, and then everyone the only reason why she can go is because of the rider, like their nen is what fuels them. Like if Hori took that concept, I feel like it could have worked, because obviously we have characters like Godzilla who like transforms into a Godzilla-esque character, or you have quirks that like you can see farther, which helps with like technology making. I feel like we could have had it. Now, would Hori want to have a quirk where it directly is technological? I feel like that would have been a quirk down the line in a future generation. Because we're at the organic stage, right? The only exception is creation.
Yeah, I think so. Like we've got people making stuff that just straight up being like, look at that. It exists now. I got it. And hell, even Shoto's powers, he's basically able to straight up be like, yeah, so this exists now. And he's like, oh, cool.
Oh, free ice. Nice.
Like he can just pop it out. We don't know why, but hey, even though I still think that eventually we get to a point where maybe, I guess this is a weird question, but do you guys actually think we'll keep getting to see Shoto use ice? Like let's say we skipped like 10 years in the future. Do you think Shoto even bothers creating ice anymore? Or do you think he's just using phosphor fire?
No, I think he's going to do all of what he has shown to do. I feel like he's going to have more control, because obviously we've seen in this arc the quirk combos and the way they're using the quirk is unrefined. It's not the final product. Phosphor is a new technique. There's more to grow from it, but there's
Yeah.
also more for him to do with his ice. For example, when they're going straight to Dabi, Shoto did something we've never seen him do before, create constructs. Like this is something we've seen with Gaten, which goes to show he's learning more about his quirk. So
Well,
we're going to see Shoto be the new Gaten.
Well, he sort of did rudimentary constructs during the remedial arc where like he made that slide for the kids.
For
So-
sure, but like
Yeah,
I
he-
view that difference.
Not on the
than-
not on the scale of like
Yes.
the fighter jet that he made, but so there is progress to be made, and
Mhm.
it's the more he works on it, the more it's going to advance.
Yeah, we've
Which-
seen the prototype to us before.
and a good example of this is like heaven piercing ice wall during Deku versus Class 1A.
Yeah.
It was
It's a straight up like
actually
block.
just a straight up pillar, yeah, like
Yeah.
just boom,
Yeah, and
Compared to,
Sports
like,
Fe-
the
sports
spiky-
festival, it was like
just
Yeah,
a big
it-
glacier.
yeah,
Because we've like, correct me if I'm wrong, we went from DAS like during the sports festival, or at least like during when they were all like the first exam that they had were Deku versus Bakugo, Uraka versus Ida. We saw like his first uses of ice, then
Mhm.
flash forward to the UA Sports Festival, we see what Heaven Piercing Ice Wall can really be. Then we saw what he could do with it during Izara. Then after that, we had joint training
Mhm.
where we got to see him morally control the path of the ice.
Yeah,
Oh.
so he could see it.
Yeah.
the ramp at Camino too when they say
Mhm.
when they say
Yes.
Bakugo, yeah, because
Absolutely. Like his quirk, like his usage of ice has always been refined and it's getting better, but we haven't really seen him do constructs until what Joseph mentioned and now, which I love. So in the future, do I see Shoto using more phosphor? No. I do think that's going to be his main focus, but I do think we're going to get more constructs to help with saving people, like more slides, more like shields that are like Great Full Buster from Fairy Tail.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the ice would be used for more defensively and more like AoE purposes, while because in joint training he said he needed to use his fire more because Juzo said that if he used our fire on us, we would have been doomed. So I think that kind of put in his head that he needs to start using fire first for
Mhm.
situations. And I think it just depends. If he's gonna be facing big level threats, that's when he'll use phosphor. But until then, I think he's just gonna use ice for defensively and fire for offensively.
now if he could create ice constructs, could he do the same with fire?
I mean, we've seen Endeavor do a fire
Endeavor's done.
construct,
Hmm.
but I don't know if that was like the first time we see if it was literally or symbolically.
Yeah,
But
I
then we
mean-
see Dobby use a fire fist ace type technique against Endeavor. So
Well,
yeah,
even
I
then,
think
didn't he use fire javelins against in Villain Hunter deck?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
he used fire javelin against the nail gun guy.
Yeah,
so you can, which was what like Hori actually made it a little cleaner, but it was a move that we first saw in
yeah, in the anime
The anime.
version of
the
Sting.
Hosu incident. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we covered this chapter, which there's not a lot in this chapter. So
I do have a question.
Okay.
So like during this chapter, you see Shoto approach Dabi before a Great Glacial Ager, and you see my origin as Toya and Dabi.
Yeah.
If it was so simple as thing, obviously we know that's Dabi speaking, but is the rest of that Shoto where it says there are still arguments I want to have and things I want to say because the text boxes compare
thought that
like
was
Dabi's
Dabi.
one to Shoto's like more like the lines are straight compared to Dabi's where it's cracking.
Let me see.
So is that like the difference?
So the issue with this one is that his thoughts in this moment have the straight lines.
Mm-hmm.
The boxes itself are correct. So maybe this is Shoto's.
Yeah.
But we don't know for sure. And I think the sad part is that I think there's a chance we get an internal monologue from Dabi
Mm-hmm.
where he says something along the lines of like, I wish this had happened sooner, but it's too late to have them cry for me. Or something along those lines, because I kind of feel like he's yelling all this stuff about die, 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 but right here, it's almost like the only way that they could, it's almost like he's like, damn, I guess I should have like just tried to just pick a fight with them earlier instead of doing all this stuff with the league, all this other stuff, and maybe we would have come to a different conclusion.
Mhm.
And maybe we would have gotten to have an actual, because like the thing is that 191 was Dobby Hawk's endeavor. And
Yeah.
that's when he pulled up, you know, that's the one where he was actually going to attack and then left. So Dobby leaves in 191, and that's when we get the Hawks and Dobby conversation for the first time. So let's see, 291. That was when we got
that was what was
that
the
was
name? Yeah,
that was the
going strong.
actual Dobby's dance.
Yeah.
Or sorry, thanks for going strong. So that was the one after Dobby's dance where the video is playing and he reveals who he is. So to a certain degree,
Mhm.
Dobby's dance was 290 and Dobby showed up at the end of 190. But 191 is where, you know, we kind of get Endeavor not able to see him clearly. And then 291 is where we're given the Toya introduction, like where we're given, you know, this is Toya's like original origin, him discovering his power, etc. And then
the Dance Dance Revolution.
And his identity just straight up being hard revealed. So I think that this chapter could be a close to Dobby, and then the next chapter might just be a close to Toya.
I
can
don't
see that.
know, because it, like, to me personally, I
could
think
be.
Hori is just going straight to Toga and Uraraka, because obviously you see the second last page is
that's
to be
true.
continues, and then you guess like Uraraka versus Toga.
Yeah.
Which I
So
kind
then,
of like, me personally, I feel like the to be continued wasn't just like the chapter like ending, it was also to be continued for the Todoroki family, because there's no, like, to me personally, I don't see the reason why putting to be continued on the second last page felt like it made sense, you know?
Yeah, no. I guess really the point of what I'm saying though is that we're going to get more Toya.
Yeah.
Just something small to wrap up Toya. So I think what you guys said about him possibly dying, sure, but we have to get, or we're going to get, in my mind, something to conclude the Toya arc based off those lines, whether it's an internal or something like that. Even if he gets called out by like Natsuo, it would be kind of nice to have somebody say like, hey, you like, because you know they like to call him stupid big brother, so call him a stupid big brother, but tell him like, can't you say something nice before you go? And maybe have it be, I don't actually want to leave, or something like that. I don't know, but just something where they interact and like kind of address the fact that Toya is having these regrets, which
So are
sucks.
you saying Toya needs a night eye moments in the hospital where they're all just surrounding him?
It doesn't even have to be in the hospital, but yeah, I think him getting a night eye goodbye is probably the optimal utilization for his character, at least through my perspective.
Because keep in mind, they're all collapsed. Like Endeavor, Shoto, and Dabi are all just out of commission. So I feel like the next time we see them will be in the hospital after.
And they can be all in one big room, a family hospital room.
Back in the Super Mario hospital.
So, but yeah, a 10-pager. We're on break next week, so looks like we're covering volume 2 next week, guys.
Yes, let's go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll do volume 2 next week. Any last words? We can go around the horn. Joseph Shola.
I've actually attended worse family barbecues than that.
I'm sorry. Thomas.
The chapter's good. I do get the complaints. Like, the people feel like they were cheated out of seeing more of this plotline. I get that, but I personally believe there's more to be explored. Obviously, it won't be in depth because obviously it'll probably be in like the final chapters. So you'll get like a chapter dedicated to Toya's last goodbye and dedicated to Endeavor as a character, finally the conclusion of his character. Because I don't think this oops, my mic just effed up. Can you hear me?
Yep, I
Yeah.
can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I accidentally pulled out my mic. So yeah, I do think there's a lot more to be explored. Obviously, it won't be in depth, but that's fine by me. Shoto as a character has concluded here. This is Shoto's rising, and honestly, I'm happy. Like Shoto has been kind of a laughing stock in the community recently. Coyote knows for sure.
I sent that 3-paragraph essay on
Yes.
why he's
So it was more than 3 paragraphs, but it didn't help that in one of Shoto's best panels, he was called 5 Weenies. Didn't help there. It kind of limited the rawness, but I love Shoto as a character, and just following him up until this moment has been a treat. Shoto's like last attack being this big bombastic explosion condensing attack is really, really cool. And him dedicating this win to everyone in the family is kind of perfect because Shoto has never been someone who primarily focuses on himself. Well, past Sports Festival. Like, just seeing how far these characters come is, I just love it. I love this family plotline, and I expect Hori to give them that final goodbye after this arc. But until then, we still have Uraraka and Toga, Deku versus Shigaraki, All Might versus All For One. We have so many battles to go to. And I get people's like fears because Hori came out recently and said that he's going to conclude battlefields. And I feel like people are taking that too literally, where they're like, okay, so we're going to get Uraraka and Toga 1 chapter. We're going to get All Might versus All For One half a chapter. No, I feel like he's going to conclude the minor battlefields. We still have Sero, Aoyama to go. So yeah, until then, just not be hopeful, because obviously I don't want everyone to get their hopes raised up, but keep an open mind. So yeah, that's all I want to say. See everyone in next week's stream.
All right, Coyote, I'm giving you the final thoughts of the final thoughts.
Oh man. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this whole plot line for this chapter. I do wish it was way longer. At least just 1 chapter of 11-page chapters. Doesn't even have to be a long one, but I do think there was more that could have been done here. I don't know what, but I do feel like something more should have been added. But overall, I've always thought Endeavor and Dobby, well, not so Dobby 100%, but I've always felt Dobby might have a good chance of surviving this battle. He did. Whether he dies in the hospital is a different story. But Endeavor, I always thought was going to live. Because I kind of feel like, and this just could be me speaking out of my ass, but I think with Japan, I think they view atonement and a redemption arcs is, I think death is too easy. So a character like Endeavor would have to actually go through and live with his consequences, then die. And I kind of am happy with him living and having to deal with the consequences, then having to die and just not see the family just become good now that he has actually turned good. It's still fuck Natsuo season. Ray is hot, Fuyumi's hot, and that is it.
All right, that was exactly where I expected those lines in. But thank you to everybody who came through. Appreciate everybody that showed up. We're gonna be here next week for the reread stream. This is a good conclusion to the fight against Dabi. I am looking forward to the overall wrap up of Toya and the Todoroki family in general. I'm not too worried about that conclusion of Battlefields thing. Look, this is the My Hero fandom. We freak out. If anything, I'm hoping that this next break is actually like 2 weeks instead of, so we can go volume 2 and 3. Horikoshi, make sure you please just take that time to heal. That's all I really ask of the guy. And that's all I'm going to say here. Thank you for everybody who came through in the chat, from Tanisha Greer to Jalen Beck to the camera, Bailey, Tyler, and so many others. Thank you.